This is Brian Leverins, Athletic Director for the Winamac Warriors, and you are listening to the Winamac Athletic Podcast.
Welcome to the Winamac Athletic Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Riverside Rentals. Discover canoeing, kayaking, and lazy river tubing right here in Winamac. Action Plumbing and Heating for all of your plumbing, heating, and cooling needs. Been serving people since 1994. And now, the voice of the Winamac Athletic Podcast, Justin Ruff.
Hello, welcome to the very first ever episode of the Winamac Athletic Podcast. We did it. We made it. It's here. Hooray. The very first episode of this podcast, bringing you closer and closer to Winamac Athletics, an inside look to the athletic program, communicating with players, coaches, Winamac alums. How's it going, everyone? My name is Justin Ruff, Winamac alum, and the voice of the Winamac Athletic Podcast. A new tradition begins today. This is the Winamac Athletic Podcast. A big shout out to our band director, Ms. Sutton, and the Winamac Band for their fantastic performance of today's show's intro. Super excited to be with you on this new podcast, going over and covering all of Winamac athletics for both the boys and girls programs. We will be releasing a new episode every Tuesday and occasionally be releasing a Throwback Thursday episode, bringing back some of the Winamac alums who've been through it all with a Winamac jersey on. Join us as we bring you closer to the heart of Winamac athletics. Tune in to our podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to us. Follow us on social media. We have a lot of them, so stay updated on all of Winamac athletics. You can find us on Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for exclusive Winamac athletic content. Your support means the world to us, so don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, or drop a comment, even if you don't like or enjoy my voice. Every interaction is valuable to us. We have a lot to go over today, important things to go over today. A new season is approaching us and coming up quick. The 2024-25 season is right around that corner, and we will be bringing on every coach on this show before their season starts. And we will, of course, be starting with the fall coaches. That includes cross country, cheerleading, girls golf, football, soccer, and girls volleyball. But before we do that and enjoy communicating with them, today's guest, it only felt right to bring on the guy who helps keep the wheels turning in this athletic program, our athletic director, Mr. Brian Leverins. Mr. Leverins, he's been with us for 4 years now. This is year number 4. Okay, so we'll be communicating with him a little bit, getting to know him a little bit better. He'll go through his background, his journey before he became a Winamac Warrior. Then we'll discuss the 2024 fall season. So stay tuned as we bring on our athletic director, Mr. Brian Leverins. Hey, you're doing it. You're listening to the first ever episode of the Winamac Athletic Podcast.
It's time for the Warrior Guest of the Day.
Welcome back, and thank you for listening to the very first ever episode of the Winamac Athletic Podcast today. We're honored to introduce our special guest, the driving force behind our athletic program, none other than our esteemed athletic director, Mr. Brian Leverance. How's it going, Brian? Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Hey, Justin, thanks for having me on. What a great intro that you just gave me. I need to have you walking around with me all the time.
That's a good one. I can do that. You pay me, and I'll do it, Leverance. Right. No problem. All right. So remember back in, I think maybe May, I first approached this podcast idea to you, and I can only imagine, Leverance, what you were thinking. What the heck does this guy want now? That type of thing. But once I pitched the idea to you, you seemed generally enthusiastic about it, engaged with the idea, unless you were, a really good actor. How do you feel now about this podcast for this brand new season?
I actually really, really liked the idea. Everything you sent me kind of right off the bat. Obviously, we had a pretty good correspondence going back and forth with, making sure we, dotted our I's and crossed our T's on some things. But for me and our student athletes here and for this athletic program, any type of exposure that we can get for ourselves, hopefully always in a positive light, it's just something that for me, and especially if I'm not the one who's, heading this entire thing, I kind of thought, hey, let's try it, let's do it. And, hopefully it's something that, will last.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it. It's kind of like what you said, just highlighting what these kids do.
Yeah.
And the work, and not only the kids, also the coaches in this community. I feel like this can be a big thing for this town as well. So I was communicating with a gentleman at work. He's a Winamac guy. He's a Winamac alum. And we were talking about athletics, talking about sports, who's coaching what now, how they doing, stuff like that. And then we came across the athletic director, who they've all been. And then we came across you, talked about you. He was asking me questions. Where is he from? How long has he been here? All that fancy stuff. So, this is a great opportunity for our sports community and fans to get to know you a little bit more, your background, your journey before you got here, maybe possibly your social security card number. Maybe we might get there. Who knows? But let's go through your background first. What high school did you attend? What year did you graduate in the sports and hobbies?
Sure. So I graduated from Twin Lakes in 2005. And I played football, basketball, and baseball. I was a three-sporter. So I always kind of kid that's kind of for, my dad. Mm-hmm. And then, for, my mom's side, I was in all the plays and musicals as well. Oh, nice. So I have a nice little background. And I kind of think what else? Hobbies. Grew up on the lake, of course, Lake Freeman. So spent a lot of summers on the lake, and had a really great group of friends that we still hang out. So that's kind of where my past is, I guess, through high school.
Awesome. Football player. What position did you play there?
So I played linebacker, running back, wide receiver, and punt returner.
Do you have any records? Got any records of the big Twin Lakes school?
I don't think so. I was on pace in one of the games, I think, for receptions.
Okay.
But we ended up winning by a lot. So I actually did not play, I think, the back half of the third quarter and the fourth. So but it was getting up there. It's like first or second game of my senior year, I think.
That's cool. That's awesome. And I'm sure in basketball you were a corner sniper, because that's what we put on scouting reports.
Oh, yeah.
So watch them in the corner.
So basketball-wise, I was actually probably more of a driver slasher kind of growing up.
Okay.
And then kind of heading into my junior year, started to really work on the shot more. And then pretty much right at the beginning of my senior year, I sprained my ankle really bad. Actually did not play in the scrimmage, and then actually did not start against Winnemac
Your senior year.
my senior year.
Jeez.
And so pretty much kind of lost my first step, kind of the ability to really take guys off. So I really had to focus on shooting. So yeah, we had two really good guards who could drive. I did my job.
You did your job.
Stand there and be ready to shoot.
That's all right. That's good. Now moving on to your college experience. Now I get, I know the answer to this, Leverance. So, but I get paid the big bucks to do this podcast, so I have to ask you the hard questions.
Yep.
Where did you attend school, and also were you also involved in any activities?
So I'm a Purdue Boilermaker through and through. I know that kind of stings you. Justin, I don't know if you know this or not. They just went to the Final Four this
Oh, did they? I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I always kind of like to joke. I'm not sure if I ever really had a choice. So my great-grandpa, he played basketball for Purdue.
Did he really?
Yes.
I did not know
His
Wow.
uniform actually was in one of the cases at Mackey for quite a long time.
Huh.
It's no longer in one of those cases there. Then my grandpa, my dad both went to Purdue, so I think I didn't really have a choice in the matter. And
that's all right.
Growing up, watching all of the games,
Wow.
just kind of fell in love. So yeah, so I went to Purdue and really just did the rec stuff there, rec sports, basketball, football. I forget what year it was, but we actually did make the rec championship in basketball, and we ended up being able to play in Mackey.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was really a fun experience. And then I guess football, in the flag football rec, we had the #1 ranked team for flag football, which, I mean, we always kind of hang our hats on. But when you think about all the teams that are in there, but, the regular season, it was only like 4 games. We were probably one of like 7 teams that were 4-0. So they probably just drew us out of a hat.
So what you're telling me, Leverance, is you're a rec legend. That you have
legend. Yeah.
Yeah. They have your jersey somewhere in the rec.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's pretty cool. But I did not know about your grandfather. That is pretty cool, and I'm sure it's cool for your kids as well. You tell your kids that?
Yeah, so they are probably too young to really understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They'll
I mean,
get there.
my great grandpa, I think, I haven't looked at the book in a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he was on one of the conference championship teams.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I mean, just a really, really cool thing that we can kind of trace back to.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you meet your wife at Purdue?
No.
Was she high school sweethearts?
No.
No.
So kind of just one of those old stories. Mom set me up.
Nice. Very nice.
No, so she, my wife Danny, she grew up in Oklahoma, and she went to college in Ohio. So instead of going all the way back to Oklahoma during breaks, she would go and stay with her aunt who lived in Monticello. My parents still lived in Monticello at the time. And that's kind of where that connection happened there.
So she's the smart one in the family and then go to Purdue, right?
That's right.
Pretty cool stuff. Let's explore your college journey. Post-college, career journey post-college. I've heard whispers, of course, different locations that you've been in different schools that you've coached at. Could you walk us through those different places that you've been in the coaching roles you've held?
Yeah, probably should have got the resume out just so I could read it off.
No.
So I started coaching real late in college. I knew I wanted to teach, knew I wanted to be a part of athletics. So my very first coaching job was 7th and 8-year-olds playing T ball.
Nice.
That's it. That's it.
T-ball.
That is where it
In
started.
Monticello?
Yes.
Or okay.
So I was making that trip, just wanted to start someplace. And then, from there, I got on a couple staffs at Twin Lakes for football, basketball, and baseball. So I coached all three, I think, for 3 straight years. So this was when it was real late in college, and then getting that first big boy job and coaching all three. It was exhausting. But I mean, I wouldn't have traded it. Different levels, helped where baseball, like I said, T-ball to Pony League, to JV to varsity assistant. And then basketball started off at middle school, kind of worked my way up, freshman, JV, varsity assistant, and then football, special teams coordinator at a couple of spots. I think I coached middle school football for a year or two, but then really once I got the teaching job, I was pretty much at the high school level the entire time. I was at Twin Lakes, where I did coach all three, I think, for 2 years there, and then got the teaching job at Delphi, but it was through Logan Sport because it was special education.
Mm-hmm.
And so I coached baseball there for 2 years, JV 1 year, varsity assistant the next. And then from there, got a health education job at sport. So that was an easy transition there. Coached basketball with Pat Skaggs, coached football with Brad Urban, which that name should kind of resonate around here a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then from there, went back to Twin Lakes, got a teaching job there, and that was the year Twin Lakes went to the state finals. Just a really good experience there, and throughout this entire time, so we're talking 5, 6, 7 years. I had started to apply for basketball and football jobs. Mm-hmm. And, those jobs in this state are very hard to get. So I was literally driving a lot of places, interviewing, getting my name out there, was told no a whole lot of times, Mm-hmm. But just kept going. So then Twin Lakes made that state run. And, I just thought to myself, if this doesn't get me a job, I'm not really sure what will. So again, go up and interview at Garrett, and that was for basketball. And the month prior, I had an interview for football someplace. So it was like one of those things. Hey, whichever one I get first, that's the one I'm going all in with. So got the head boys job at Garrett. Was there for 4 years, and then decided that we wanted to move a little closer home. I had actually started to look a year or two prior, because we started to have kids, and we were up in the Fort Wayne area. Garrett's about 20 minutes north. Mm-hmm. And we were like, we don't really have anyone if something happens. Right. So started to look for different jobs then.
Right, and that kind of leads into the next question. How did you hear and learn about the Winnemac job? Was it a thing that you just saw? I mean, of course, you were familiar with Winnemac, not too far away from Monticello. But was it a word of mouth or a target, or what? And what interested you in the position?
Yeah, so I would say probably year 3 at Garrett is when I really started to look for different jobs because of how far away we were at the time. And so at that point, I was looking for different basketball jobs, but then I was also looking for a athletic director jobs as well. Right. So I started to apply, interview for those. Again, didn't get it right off the bat. Coached that fourth year, but at that time, I kind of knew, okay, we've got to move a little bit closer back home. So that is kind of what we did. And as I was going through things, Winnemac job popped up. I did have a little relationship with Mr. Cody Hook, our principal,
Mm-hmm.
played football with each other at Twin Lakes. So I thought, hey, this is a good opportunity if it happens. Put in for it, came down, interviewed, obviously went well enough where I ended up getting the job. But, even when I was growing up, and I think I said this in an interview way back, people speak really highly of the student athletes that we have here,
Mm-hmm.
about how hard they work and just their toughness and things like that. And, walking into a athletic director job, that's probably what you want. That's going to be at the top of your list.
Right.
And I don't think I knew it at the time, but this community is very passionate about athletics in general, and this school and the programs here. And it just makes it enjoyable on my end, having student athletes who work as hard as they do, and the community backing that we get from all angles. And it's just it's been very positive for my family and I so far.
Awesome. And I think I will fall in that category of being passionate, because heck, we're doing this right now,
That's right. That's
so
right.
that's all good things. So that's awesome to hear. Now let's since you've joined us, let's go through that process. I think 21, 22 is when you joined us.
Yes.
You took over after Bill Ball, Mr.
Yep.
Ball, who did a great job. I think he was doing it for maybe 11 years, possibly, long time. But let's go through all the changes that you have been a part of since you have been here. I have a few on top of my head that were been pretty big, that you've been a part of. But let's go through all the changes that you've done.
Sure. So let me first start off by saying, let me give a shout out to Bill, to Bill Ball. He did a fantastic job. Having him in the building since I've been here has been awesome. I don't think a lot of new athletic directors have that.
Yeah.
And I know year one, I was probably calling up to his room probably 3 or 4 times a week. And hey, have you ever had this come up? And sometimes be like, no, never dealt with that. So I think maybe he was just saying that because he was getting tired of me calling. But no, having a good relationship with him has been it's been fantastic. So some changes that we've made, I guess some that you wouldn't have really seen. We have introduced some digital ticketing for season passes, have kind of moved in that direction as well.
Awesome.
I don't think we will ever get to the point where that's only what we're doing, which is fine. Obviously the big one, softball field out there.
Beautiful.
What a fantastic decision by the board and our superintendent to get that thing up here. It's absolutely fantastic.
Was it a long process? I'm sure it was. Belcher has been warranting that for some time, but I'm sure.
From kind of what I've been told is it was really close a few years back, and then it kind of went away, came back, went away, and then boom, we started on it, started to meet with planners, and it's just, you've been out there.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
It's awesome.
I'm not sure there's a better 1A, 2A softball facility in the state.
No,
I
agree.
And I know I probably sound biased when I'm saying that, but that thing is phenomenal. And they're actually out there working on baseball right now, and the entire infield is dug up. So that's going to look really good. We have replaced the banners in the gymnasium. There's new signage outside on the fences showcasing sectional championships from the past. I've put a few signage things up above door 15 and door 14 for athletic entrances.
Yeah.
Those look really nice. We've updated, obviously not myself, but Mr. Hook, kind of the cafeteria and the gym area here. We have the new touch screen that we have here.
That's pretty cool.
It's
I
really,
do like
really,
that.
really cool. It did take a lot of work to kind of get the initial, pictures in there and kind of get that updated. But if you walk our hallways, we don't have a lot of wall space for all of our student athletes, our coaches, and the championships that we have. So getting that touch screen has been fantastic. Let me see. We have navigated a conference switch. So for those people that don't know, LaVille and Knox left our conference. So this was pretty much a half a year thing that we were going through. And so they left. And so now we're bringing in, so everyone just needs to kind of hang on here. I'll try to explain this best I can. We're bringing in North Miami, Argus, Oregon Davis, and South Central. Now, I know we are losing 2. We're bringing on 4. So the biggest thing here is this. North Miami is in for everything. Argus and Oregon Davis, they're in for everything, but they don't have football.
Right.
So that's where South Central is coming in just for football to help, make the schedule better, for the conference there. So dealing with that, we did host the first ever wrestling sectional here.
Awesome.
As far as I know, we have switched to final forms, which a lot of people may not know what that is, but it's pretty much kind of where all of the physicals go, the paperwork goes. We have it all there. Coaches can easily access that if something were, to happen. We've brought on 2 new sports programs in middle school soccer and middle school baseball, both this past year. So this past year was year 1. So hopefully year 2 here, the numbers kind of will stay, the same, so we can get that sports status here. But both groups had near 30 kids,
right?
30 student athletes for middle school soccer and middle school baseball, which
awesome.
is absolutely
in my eyes, Leverns, that right there is huge.
It is
adding those middle school programs because it brings more interest for those schools. And sometimes you got to think about it. You come in, the Y does a pretty good job at doing just for soccer.
Yeah,
they do a pretty good job at hosting that. And then there's no middle school, so other kids go to other sports. But if you're in love with soccer, you stay with soccer and stuff like that. So I absolutely love that part of the add-on that you have. And then baseball as well. I'm sure even with the athletes, with middle school athletes, I'm sure they just love doing more stuff, So that right there was one of the things I had in my mind that was huge add-on for you guys.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when we look at, consistency within our programs, I'm a big believer in, if we have a varsity program, we probably need to have a middle school one for it, just so that there's no break between, 5th grade and then us seeing them again their freshman year.
Right.
So, we're hoping that our numbers will kind of tick up in, especially soccer. Baseball kind of seems to take care of itself, but I think that will really help. The next one, and I've been kind of going back and forth with a couple other athletic directors and what they do, but we do want to get some sort of golf activity going for our middle school, whether that's a club or whether that's a club that eventually becomes a sport. Coach Shell, our golf coach, he and I have talked about this before. We just don't really know how it's going to look, when we're going to do it. Schools around here are kind of split. Some do it in the fall, some do it in the spring, some don't have it at all. So then we're looking at transportation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are we talking mini bus, big bus? You know, because if we're talking middle school, we obviously don't want them traveling over an hour just for a golf match,
Right.
you know, during the week. So that's probably the next one. I don't really have a good timeline for that, but I really like kind of where we're at with our programs, and having those middle school programs, you know, help our varsity as well, and it just allows those middle school student athletes to see and be around our varsity coaches more,
Right.
which should only help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love those. Keep doing work there. And I'm sure there's so much more, you know, we could talk about, but those are big ones there. Fall sports time.
Yeah.
Fall sports time. Let's talk about the upcoming 24-25 season. What are you excited about this upcoming fall season? Now, you discussed the new conference change.
Yeah.
That's of course is the big thing. There's been new sectional, of course, but what is there? Is there anything new we need to know about for this upcoming fall season?
Yeah. So kind of excitement on my end. I definitely will want to see how the new conference shakes out. The new sectional alignments were interesting a little bit, and that was for a lot of our sports, really our team sports. You know, we're still waiting on baseball and softball to come out with those. We have a pretty good idea on what they'll look like. We kind of think they'll follow, you know, boys and girls basketball, that route. But
Okay.
you know, we could be wrong. You know, for me, when it comes to our student athletes and our coaches, I get the excitement from, you know, who's going to step up.
Right.
You know, we lost some really good talent this past year with the seniors in their class. You know, so just seeing who's going to step up, seeing who's put in work, because you're going to be able to tell the first couple of weeks when practices start, and then you're going to be able to tell first couple of weeks when the season rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who was putting in work, who was in the weight room, who was really trying to get better at their sport. So, you know, that's always, you know, fun to watch as an athletic director, just to see those student athletes grow, coaches grow. You know, we actually have from a head coaching standpoint, a very young head coaching staff. So just continuing to see them grow is, you know, exciting. I think we're going in the right direction. I
do believe you mentioned coaches. We have 2 new coaches just for the fall, and that is Mikey Haschel. He's the new head coach. He's been involved, obviously, with that program, and then new soccer coach, and that which is great there. And I know when you said watching the students grow as a coach, just as assistant coach, that was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, it is awesome.
You know, even if you lose a really good class, very sad, yes.
Yeah.
But you know, seeing students grow, athletes grow into new positions, seeing how much work they put in, that's what I love to see as a coach. So.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes you just don't know how good a student athlete is until that senior's finally gone.
I know it.
You know, and someone can step up, and all of a sudden you're like, geez, you know, that kid, he's tough. She's awesome. So yeah, and you know, for our 2 new head coaches, you know, it's different when you're the assistant and then all of a sudden you slide over. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you know, you're just not showing up to practice, to go through drills. You've got to deal with everything else. Okay, do I have my roster? So I have all the physicals in, you know, things like that. You know, do I have to be on the podcast this week?
Right. Yeah. No.
Shout out to the podcast. So, you know, it's just, yeah, you know, it's exciting, and I think those 2 guys are going to do a great job.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Leverance, we did it. That's it. That was a pretty awesome discussion. I can't thank you enough for spending the time with me today, introducing this brand new episode. And heck, we discussed what things you've added on under your belt in your 4 years. This can be on there,
That's
hopefully.
right. That's right.
Hopefully in a positive life. So, again, thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself as well in your life. Do you have any last words or comments for us today?
Hey, I'll just kind of give a shout out to my wife, Danny,
There you
and
go.
then my kids, Taysom, Ledger, and Penelope.
You have 3 of them now.
3.
And, we were discussing earlier zone defense. Is what I'm in it too.
It is.
I get dissected in zone defense. It's tough.
That is great.
Awesome stuff. Well, hey, great. Thanks again, Mr. Leverins. That was our athletic director, Mr. Brian Leverins. That will not be the only time you hear from him on this show this year. We will bring him back right after the fall season to go over those sports and then go over the new winter sports coming up. So we'll be back right after a quick word from one of our sponsors. Hey, you're doing it. You're listening to the very first ever episode of the Winamac Athletic Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Riverside Rentals. Discover canoeing, kayaking, and lazy river tubing right here in Winamac. Action Plumbing and Heating for all of your plumbing, heating, and cooling needs. Been serving people since 1994.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for our very first ever episode of the Winamac Athletic Podcast. We're thrilled to announce that our next episode will be airing right after this, featuring one of our talented fall coaches. Join us as we dive into their coaching journey, explore the history of their sport, introduce their roster, and discuss their goals for the upcoming 24-25 season. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to us, make sure you take a moment to rate, comment, and subscribe. Also, help us spread the word about the podcast so that everyone can stay updated on our Winamac Warriors. A big thank you to our athletic director for being our first guest of the day. And another huge thank you to Riverside Rentals and Action Plumbing and Heating for sponsoring this episode. If you own a business or would like to support our Winamac athletes by becoming a sponsor of this show, please reach out to us through social media. Your support means the world to us. And with that, we've wrapped up our very first ever episode of the Winamac Athletic Podcast. It's been an incredible journey, and I am truly blessed and honored to be the voice behind the Winamac Athletic Podcast. Stay tuned for many more exciting episodes to come throughout the year. Once again, I'm Justin Ruff, and this is the Winamac Athletic Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Winamac Athletic Podcast, sponsored by Riverside Rentals. Discover canoeing, kayaking, and lazy river tubing right here in Winamac. Action Plumbing and Heating for all of your plumbing, heating, and cooling needs. Been serving people since 1994. We'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting Winamac Athletics and being part of the Winamac Athletic Podcast.
Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe. Go Warriors!